When a 16-year-old girl named Liberty Wells moved into the lake house with her mother, she discovered a terrible secret that no one else knew about. Strange things were happening in this small part of the forest that could eventually change the fate of the entire Earth. At the beginning of the movie, there is a scene where we see a red light inside the water. This light gets brighter and brighter, then the scene suddenly cuts off. This secret will be revealed at the end of the story, and it's very interesting. Now we meet 16-year-old Liberty Wells. Liberty is a girl who prefers to be alone and doesn't have many friends, which means she is an introvert. She also dresses in a way that boys are not attracted to her. Liberty is a bit paranoid as well. She had been at a summer camp for the last few days. When her time at camp ended, her mother, Michelle, came to pick her up. Michelle is the only family Liberty has. She has no siblings and doesn't know much about her father. Michelle is a writer who used to write romance novels. Her work was good in the past, but not anymore. She owns a lake house and some land around it. Michelle has been living there for the last few months, and now Liberty is going to live there too. Michelle asked Liberty about the camp and how her days were, but Liberty doesn't talk much. Despite this, Michelle loves her daughter. She even lets Liberty drive the car when she comes to pick her up. Liberty then learns that her mother is selling some of the land because their financial situation is not good, but Michelle still seems happy, a reason we will understand later. After arriving at the lake house, Liberty discovered that her mother had been living with someone for the past few days, her new boyfriend, who was very attractive. Liberty found herself drawn to him immediately. She was surprised that her mother, at her age, could find such an appealing man. His name was John. Not only was John attractive, but he was also very kind. When he met Liberty, he asked how she was doing and gave her a gift. Michelle had told John that Liberty was very interested in archaeology, so John gifted her an old bracelet with an ancient stone in it. According to John, it was a symbol of some ancient tribe that considered the stone to represent a goddess of fertility. It was a priceless gift, and both Liberty and Michelle felt even more affection for John because of it. Michelle herself was amazed that she had found such a loving person, someone she thought only existed in stories. Liberty asked her mother, "Why didn't you tell me about this?" Michelle replied, "I didn't think our relationship would last this long, but I am very happy to have found him." At lunch, Liberty changed from her usual clothes into a nice dress, showing that she, too, was attracted to John. During dinner, Liberty asked John about how he met her mom. Michelle jumps in and explains that she met John at the lake house because he's a marine biologist studying the fish in the lake. Liberty is surprised and curious, so she asks John more about his research. John happily shares his work with her. He tells her that there's a big problem on Earth. There's not enough clean water, and the little clean water we have is getting polluted. The rain is making the clean water salty, which is bad news for the creatures living in it. They won't be able to survive if things keep going this way. John explains that his team is trying to find a solution. They want to help some species adapt to living in both clean and salty water by making tiny changes to their genes. John says he's been part of a small research team for the past year, which means he was already living in the area before Michelle and Liberty started coming to the lake house occasionally. What John says about his research is partly true, but there's more to the story. When the truth about John's secret is finally revealed, it will be a big surprise. John's amazing story about saving the world with his research made a huge impression on both Michelle and Liberty. They were both smitten with him, and it seemed like they were falling deeply in love. Here, a strange thing happened that John started coughing while eating salad caught their attention, and they wondered if it had something to do with the salt he was studying. That night, Liberty couldn't stop thinking about John. She went upstairs and caught a glimpse of Michelle and John having a romantic moment together. She quickly went to her room, feeling a bit awkward, but soon John appeared at her door, standing there without any clothes on, staring at her. This was the moment when things started to get weird. The next morning, Liberty woke up to see her mom and John cuddled up together. She felt a pang of jealousy, but she tried to shake it off. Today was a special day. They had a family tradition where they would write notes or put small mementos in a box for their loved ones and then bury it in the backyard. But as they started doing this, a fight broke out between Michelle and Liberty. The argument was about Liberty's grandfather, who had passed away. Liberty loved him dearly, but Michelle didn't get along with him. In fact, he had left the lake house to Liberty in his will instead of Michelle. Liberty teased her mom, saying she didn't care about her family and was only interested in her new boyfriend. This made Michelle angry, and she stormed off. Later that day, Liberty was sitting by the lake when a centipede bit her. She was about to squash it when John appeared out of nowhere and stopped her. "Don't hurt it," he said. "It's a rare species, and it's just trying to protect its babies." Liberty was annoyed, pointing out that it had bitten her. John simply blew on the wound, and to Liberty's surprise, the pain started to fade away. "You'll be fine. Don't worry," he said with a smile. This encounter revealed two new things about John. He had a deep love for animals, and he seemed to have some kind of special healing power just from his blue. As they talked, John mentioned that he had seen Michelle upset earlier and offered to leave if he was the cause of the problem. Liberty reassured him that it wasn't his fault and asked him to stay. John confessed that he had fallen deeply in love with Michelle, and Liberty was also happy to see her mom so happy. When Liberty went to her mother's room, she found Michelle lying on the bed, looking a bit unwell. They apologized to each other, and Michelle shared some exciting news. John had proposed to her for marriage, and she had said yes. Liberty was thrilled to see her mom so happy. However, Michelle had been hiding one secret from John: her real age. She was actually 42, not 35 as John thought. Michelle planned to reveal the truth to John soon, but she didn't want to risk spoiling their relationship. Liberty's doubts about John's intentions grew stronger. One day, she caught a glimpse of him doing something bizarre from the window. He was drinking his own sweat. Later that evening, after having 2 beers, Liberty decided to investigate further. She went down to the basement where John had a laboratory set up. That's where she saw him studying a lamprey, a parasitic creature that can thrive in both fresh and salt water. These creatures survive by attaching themselves to fish and drinking their blood and fluids. John explained to Liberty that lampreys are incredibly resilient and have been around for an astonishing 360 million years. Despite all the catastrophic events that have occurred on Earth, such as earthquakes and meteorite impacts, lampreys have managed to adapt and survive. It was clear that John was fascinated by these creatures and was searching for a way to replicate their ability to thrive in both fresh and salt water. Liberty couldn't help but wonder if John was trying to acquire these qualities for himself. Was he searching for a way to become like the lampreys, able to survive in both environments? Her doubts about John's true nature were growing by the minute. As Liberty watched John work in his laboratory, she realized that he wasn't pretending. His research was genuine. He asked her if she wanted to help him collect samples at the lake, and she agreed. While they were at the lake, Liberty confided in John about her plans to attend university, which she hadn't shared with her mother yet. She asked John about his own education, but he seemed evasive and unclear in his response. As they stood by the lake, Liberty suddenly felt her period start. John quickly reacted, handing her his shirt to stem the bleeding. Liberty was mortified, but John reassured her that it was a normal part of life. However, when he licked the blood from his fingers, Liberty was shocked and didn't understand why he would do such a thing. She quickly returned home, feeling uneasy, and went to take a bath. But even in the bathroom, John's behavior was strange. He sniffed at Liberty in her clothes, making her feel even more uncomfortable. Her mother was still ill and bedridden, and John seemed to be constantly by her side. Liberty's doubts about John were growing, and she tried to call the police, but the call wouldn't connect. Earlier, John had touched her shoulder, and now she felt a sense of unease. She decided to confide in her friend Marley through messages, telling her everything that had happened and asking her to come to the lake house as soon as possible. The next day, Liberty found a sandwich and a note at the door from John, apologizing for what had happened at the lake and promising that it wouldn't happen again. That night, Liberty saw a strange light emanating from the lake, and to her surprise, John seemed to be walking into it. She rushed out of the house, but by the time she got to the lake, the light was gone. Suddenly, John appeared behind her, but his movements seemed off. He asked her what she was doing there, and Liberty told him she had seen him going into the water in the strange light. John explained that he had a sleepwalking disorder and hadn't actually gone into the water, pointing out that his clothes were dry. Liberty was worried and quickly went back into the house. The next day, Michelle was feeling very unwell, so she sent Liberty to pick up some medicine and a pregnancy test. Liberty's friend Marley was also supposed to arrive that day. When Liberty got to town, she was shocked to see John with another woman. He looked a bit different, but it was definitely him. Confused and concerned, Liberty followed them for a short distance, but then remembered she hadn't paid for the pregnancy test. The store owner reminded her, and by the time she turned around, John and the woman had disappeared. When Liberty got home, she was relieved to see that her friend Marley had arrived. However, when she went to her mother's room to deliver the pregnancy test and medicine, she found John already there, which prevented her from saying anything. Later, she confided in Marley about John's strange behavior, including the fact that he had touched her. Marley advised her to tell her mother or the police, but Liberty was hesitant because her mother was deeply in love with John. Liberty had decided to leave the next day, feeling that she couldn't stay there any longer. She decided to talk to her mother about her concerns. That night, Liberty went to bed early. The next morning, she woke up to find that Marley was gone, which she found strange. Michelle was watching TV with John, and when Liberty entered the room, Michelle asked her what she had told Marley about John. Liberty wanted to reveal the truth about John's strange behavior, but Michelle became angry and defensive. It was also revealed that Michelle was pregnant. John had already told her about his sleepwalking disorder, and she was determined to stay with him. Instead, she blamed Liberty for not getting her life together, saying that whenever she tried to do something, Liberty would spoil it. Michelle's anger boiled over and she slapped Liberty. John, pretending to be concerned, hugged Michelle, but Liberty noticed that he blinked strangely. Enraged, Liberty revealed to John that her mother had lied to him about her age. She was actually 42, not 35. John's demeanor suddenly changed, and he became angry, his eyes filling with blood. He stormed out of the room, leaving Liberty and Michelle behind. Michelle was furious with her daughter Liberty. Liberty tried to warn her mother that John was not a normal person, but Michelle refused to listen. "We're not normal either," Michelle said, "and I can't leave him because he loves me." Later that night, Liberty heard strange noises on the roof of the house. She went outside to investigate, but it was too dark to see anything, so she went back inside to get a flashlight. When she returned with the flashlight, whatever she had seen was gone. When she went back inside, she saw her mother in a state of ecstasy. John was with her, and his waist was moving in a strange way. It was clear that he was not a human being. Liberty was determined to uncover the truth about John. She drove to the lake and shone her headlights on the water. She caught a glimpse of something strange, but it was only a faint shape. She tried to call for help, but her calls kept disconnecting. It was as if someone was blocking her calls. When Liberty returned home, she couldn't find her mother in her room, so she went to the basement to look for her. What she saw there shocked her. Her mother was tied up in a tub, unconscious. Liberty wanted to save her, but then John appeared in the basement. This time, he revealed his true form. His feet were not human, and it was clear that he was not from this world. At that moment, there was water on the surface, and it likely contained salt. The alien creatures couldn't tolerate salt, and now it all made sense. John had been talking about a species that could live in seawater, but he hadn't been referring to an Earth species. Instead, he was talking about his own alien race, which was intelligent and had the ability to change their form. They had been living among humans, disguising themselves as people, and there were many of them. The strange light or shape in the lake was their spaceship. When John came to the basement, he was forced to change his form due to the water. He sat in front of Michelle, still in his human disguise. But now Michelle knew the truth. John was not human, and he had been using her all along. Michelle was just a test subject, a part of the aliens' experiment from the beginning. It's unclear why the aliens wanted to have children with human women, or why Michelle became their victim. But one thing was certain. John was not happy with the outcome of the experiment. He was disappointed, possibly because Michelle had lied about her age. John emerged from the shadows, his body glowing with an otherworldly light. He began to emit a strange energy towards the creature, which seemed to be responding to his signals. Liberty had been hiding, waiting for the perfect moment to make her move. As soon as she got the chance, she started trying to free her mom from the tub and call the police for help. Liberty soon realized that John had installed a special device in the basement that blocked her phone signal, preventing her from calling for help. She quickly broke the device, and to her relief, her call finally went through. Liberty told the police about her situation and where she was, and they promised to send help right away. But as she looked around, she saw Marley's lifeless body lying on the floor. It didn't make sense. If these aliens were using women to have babies, why did they kill Marley instead of making her pregnant like they did to her mom? It was a mystery that Liberty couldn't understand. Just then, John appeared out of nowhere and grabbed Liberty. She knew she had to act fast to defend herself. She quickly grabbed a handful of salt that was lying nearby and threw it at John's face. The salt burned his skin, and Liberty realized that it was his weakness. After rescuing her mother, Liberty was attacked as soon as she stepped out of the house. When she came to her senses, she was shocked to see multiple Johns standing in front of her. The entire basement had been erased, and the walls were being torn down. The aliens were also removing the bodies of the women who had been used as test subjects. John approached Liberty, and a strange blue light began to pour into his body. Suddenly, Liberty found herself stranded in a bizarre, unfamiliar place. The water level was slowly rising, and she saw many other women around her, all of whom seemed to be in a deep sleep. It was clear that they were all being held captive on an alien spaceship, and that their purpose was to give birth to the aliens' offspring. This was the end of the film, and Liberty's fate was left uncertain. To fully understand the story, we need to consider a few key points. The aliens' goal was to adapt their species to survive in both fresh and saltwater environments, similar to the lamprey. Since clean water is scarce on Earth, These aliens are unable to multiply and would eventually perish if they didn't make this change. As water-dwelling creatures, John and his kind are limited to living near lakes and avoid venturing far from these areas. It's unclear when they arrived on Earth, but they've had time to study humans and understand their biology. The aliens can't impregnate just any woman, as their connection only matches with specific individuals. This explains John's interest in Michelle and his strange behavior towards Liberty, who was likely the next target. In the end, Liberty becomes the latest victim, and the aliens erase all evidence to avoid detection by the police. The aliens' intelligence and adaptability pose a significant threat to humanity. If they succeed in adapting to seawater, they could potentially wipe out human existence on Earth. It's clear that they have a fondness for animals, but not humans. The alien child growing inside Michelle was harming her, causing her illness. The pregnancy was also unusually rapid, lasting only a few days before she gave birth to an alien creature. Despite being a low-budget film, the story and concept are engaging and well executed. The pacing is well balanced, keeping the viewer interested throughout. We hope you enjoyed our explanation of the film's plot and themes. Please share your thoughts on the story, and thanks for tuning in, guys.